Hi, I'm Fredrik from Frictional Games. The 1 year anniversary of Amnesia the Bunker is coming up, and we went out on our social media asking people to send in any questions you might have about the game. It turned out to become like over 400 questions, so we've gone through them, narrowed it down to a few of them that I hope to be able to reply to today. So, without further ado, let's get on to it. First question. Second chance. How long was the development of the game? Did you start after Rebirth or took some time? Well, Rebirth was released in 2020, October 2020. And I think coming out of that, this idea, we've mentioned some ideas about we should make a game that takes place during World War I in a bunker. So all of a sudden that kind of came up as an idea for a DLC for Rebirth, and I pitched the idea internally, I think April 2021. So from April 2021 to release on 6th of June 2023, so little more than 2 years is what it took to actually develop the game. Like a record time for us at Frictional. We usually take like 5 years before we release games. So, next question. Alk's grade. How design of this game came into place? Everything was planned right from the beginning, or the game design developed along the way with the development of the game? If the latter, how it's changed, what worked and what didn't? So, starting off, we began this journey by just pitching like a few core aspects of the game. It's a World War I bunker. There's a generator that keeps the power on in the bunker. There's you have the flashlight, you have a gun, and you have a monster that's stalking you. That's basically the core of the game. Then we went from there and just started adding layers as we developed. We really didn't have a pre-production for this, since it set out to be a DLC. There was like focus on a small, confined, self-contained experience, and it just developed from there. It went extremely smooth, I must say. We threw very little away from this development, so it's been a fun ride. So next one, Ted Erickson. What inspired you to make the game and its concepts? Inspiration comes from many places, and it's difficult to just decide on a few, but I guess the ones that stood out that had a bit of an impact, of course, Amnesia, would be strange otherwise. Then Alien Isolation, I think, of course, with the stalking enemy, we could see that had been made before successfully. Resident Evil, resource management, also certain things like the mission storage area of the bunker came from the idea popped in my head when I watched a playthrough, I think, of Resident Evil 2 remake, where they had this in the police station, they had these lockers. So inspiration comes from all of those places, but I think what triggered the most inspiration in this case was the movie 1917, which is, in my opinion, one of my all-time favorite movies. Due to, I think, the way that they filmed that movie with kind of like a single camera view throughout the whole game, which is, for me, a way to really make a strong immersive movie. So yeah, that's probably the most important influences, but tons of other things were also influencing us. So Zep Art, what ultimately made you decide to give a player a weapon and a way to fight and even kill monster in Amnesia game? Did history setting came before or after that decision? I'd say that it all came at the same time. The setting and the gun kind of felt like they fueled each other. It would be very strange to have a World War I setting without any weapons whatsoever. So that also tied into the grenades, the gas grenades, and all of those other items that we had. So I think one would not have come without the other. You could see the the holistic view or experience of this game through that lens. So they came at the same time, I'd say. From Cerebral C. Sarian, was the direction of this game less dialogue or narrative, driven by feedback regarding the more narrative heavy approach to Amnesia Rebirth? I mean, feedback, we always react, like take in feedback from the community and stuff like that, but instead I think this was more of a genuine feeling from the team that we maybe wanted to try something different, more gameplay focused, kind of wanted to go away a bit from the linear aspect of the game, focus more on systems, mechanics. So I'd say it kind of came from us. But of course we could have been influenced by the community or by people reacting to Rebirth, but I think it just boils down to whatever we burned for making at this point in time. Let's see, more questions. Cold Coffee Banana, what was the best part about making this game? I think for me personally it was playtesting the game over and over again and continuously getting new features added to the game. Like all of a sudden we could break doors, all of a sudden we have the rats, we have torches, everything just went layer by layer, and playtesting the game was so much fun. It's really something I take away from this development, that we really got to develop a game that was never boring to test. In a way, if you're testing a linear or a cinematic scene, it's going to be the same almost every time you test it, but here it's so much dynamics going on, so testing was always fun. I think that's my main takeaway from the development of this. Slushy Pop, what inspired the monster? It's even more terrifying than the grunt from Dark Descent. So what influenced the monster? What inspiration? Yeah. It's like, so the main inspiration I think is actually me reading a book called The Relic. We were looking for a monster that had kind of a lizardy, snake-like approach, and all of a sudden I read this book, The Relic, by I think Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child, I think. So that monster in that one, I had like never seen an image of it or anything like that from the movie that was later made, but I remember the vision I had in my head kind of inspired this kind of monster, and kind of where we started off designing it in a way. More questions about the monster. Inkblot Tunes asks, how many designs and concepts art of the beast were conceived before you settled on its final appearance? I think actually the final appearance was set fairly early on. We knew that we wanted, so I should warn people, there will be spoilers in this talk, but we wanted to, early on we knew we wanted this to be a humanoid shape with additions of this kind of snake-like way of moving around, since we wanted the monster, the beast, to be big enough to fill up like a corridor in the bunker, but still small enough to come out of these holes that are pretty small, not to allow the player to go into them and things like that. So I think that kind of was settled early on. So half human, also that the face is kind of half human, half lizard or snake-like. I think it's rather snake-like, and the neck. But there are some concepts, early concepts, that might look a bit different, but you can probably still see the resemblance. Elav6 asks, why did you make the monster hot? Okay, At Sassafras2468, what was your reaction to seeing all the fanfare of the new monster before it got revealed, leaving fans making creative designs, speculating what it would look like, what it could do? I mean, that's just super fun. People getting into it ahead of time, and so many fun things coming out of that. And one thing in particular, I remember there was this monster that started popping up everywhere. It started popping up in articles. YouTubers started using it like their thumbnail and stuff like that, and it really doesn't look that much like the beast the way it actually looks. But it was just fun. We were laughing, kind of shaking our heads seeing those images pop up. But it's all so fun, and it's like feels like it's coming from a place of appreciation. So, Kiba2134, was there a point during development where the lamp had not been a free recharge but alert monster design, like Amnesia the Dark Descent design? Find oil to refill and lamp stays on for X amount of time. No, the flashlight was part of the original design, like the original pitch for this game. I think we wanted to go away maybe from the sanity mode. We wanted it to be light and dark gameplay, but light and darkness gameplay, but we wanted to go away from the sanity mechanics and all of that. So instead of having this lantern that you bring with you, we wanted to have an infinite light source, and we wanted to connect the oil and gathering oil, finding oil to actually to the generator instead, and having that mechanic have an effect that was maybe more tangible in the gameplay, connected to the stalkers, connected to the beast and how it behaved. So we kind of, by having that, we could allow for the player to have an infinite light source, but of course an infinite light source with some severe drawbacks in the fact that it actually makes a lot of noise. At the Soul Suspect asks, given the fact Amnesia is historically focused on disempowering the player, was there much concern over how people might react to the game after seeing that it would feature guns? Was it difficult to get the team on board with the idea? Happy anniversary, ATB, which I mean Amnesia the Bunker. So I think the team was super hyped about trying something new now. That was not a problem. I guess the concern we didn't have the concern because we kind of felt that we could pull this off by limiting the ammo, by not being able to kill the monster, all of those things. But I mean, we could see concern in the community when we released some teasers and some trailers on how they actually, people were saying, oh, this game is not going to be scary now that there's a gun and things like that. There was a lot of debate going on. But I think we managed to show that it's possible to have a gun and still make a scary game. So I'm super happy with the result of that. Yeah.